Welcome to another edition of the ISB podcast, live reaction to the Hero 2024 final. And of course, I'm your host, Sahil, here with Bick, live from London. Bick, as you have known, for those of you watching these videos, is a diehard England fan. Today, I'm sure, Bick, you are hyped up, ready to go. You thought this is going to be different than the final from last Euros. It was different, but at the end, same result.
Different, but same. Is that the phrase, or is it the other way around? Yeah. I mean, the thing is, before every single match, I thought this is it. England are going out, and today I didn't. I didn't feel like that. I thought this is it. They're gonna win. They're gonna finally bring it back home. And so maybe I should take some of the blame for it. But yeah, look, I mean, commiserations. You know, you can't fault the effort. Spain were by far the better team, created way more chances. I do have some criticisms of how England went about it, but at the end of the day, you lost to a better team. So that's all you can do. You can put your hands up and say that's it.
Yeah, right from the beginning of the match, I'm sure you and all England fans felt, okay, this is a
Mm.
different level that we're playing against
Yeah.
today, right? I mean, that the Spanish team, and not just England, by the way, every team that
Mm.
faced the Spanish team, they could tell this was a different
Yeah.
level. Whether it was Germany, even whether it was France, they got
Mm.
out there and they're like, okay, this is something that we haven't seen so far in the tournament.
Yeah. And yeah, look, I think England actually started the game well. I thought they came out of the blocks. One of the big focus, everyone was focusing on the wingers, but England were, you know, the they were focusing on the supply line to the wingers. So they were focusing on shutting down the middle. And I thought they did that quite well. I thought they pressed quite well. And I thought in the first 10 minutes, I was actually quite optimistic. I was like, well, England are playing like they should in this game. And I think they just dropped off the ball a bit. Overall, I think Spain did slightly better in the first half, but they didn't create as many chances as you would expect. So I thought England had control of the game. And
Yeah.
obviously yeah. And that
What did you
goal
think
came
about the
early in the
game?
second half.
Right. So we'll get to the goals and all
Mm.
that, but let's just start with the first half because you brought it up. What did you think of England's approach to the match? Because it was correct, right? I mean, and you
Yeah.
could see as sort of the way that the match played out, you could see how good Spain was. So I think that was the
Mm.
only real option England had, right, at that
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, I did like the one change that they made of bringing Luke Shaw in, which I think that would have been the starting 11 had he been fit from the start of the tournament. So I think that was good, and I think Luke Shaw actually started really well. He won all of his tackles for the first time in this tournament. England had a threat from the left from the outset, so I thought that was really good as well. And yeah, look, I think with this Spain team, right, they're going to dominate possession and they're going to create chances. So you try and keep them off for as long as possible. And I think they did their job in the first half, 0-0. You've got 45 minutes now, play out of your skins and try and beat them.
And then of course, then the goal comes. It was a great move. Obviously,
Honestly.
it was textbook Spain.
Yeah.
That goal. Um, and then you thought, okay, where's England going to get back into this match? And then I'm sure when they're bringing Cole Palmer at that point in time, you're thinking, wow, this may actually work. It might
Yeah.
be coming home after that goal.
Yeah, I mean that was incredible. I said to my wife just before that goal went in, like 71 minutes. It was I think the 73rd minute that he scored. Like 71 minutes, I was like, you know what? I think this is done. I mean, Cole Palmer's come in. I love this player. Like he created so many chances, but I think it's done. And then again, a bit out of nowhere, he just does that. And then I thought, you know what? Because England had 5 to 10 minutes of pressure after that, and I thought they were on top, and the crowd really got into it. Um, and I don't know if you know, but England heavily. I mean, people could tell by the noise, but I think there were 50,000 England fans to like 12,000 Spanish fans, at least in terms of the allocations. So the crowd heavily got into it. England had a lot of momentum, a lot of pressure. The other thing I want to talk about is Harry Kane versus Ollie Watkins.
Yeah.
Because I think Ollie Watkins coming in made a real difference because Kane kept on coming back, which works when you have fast wingers. It worked in the last tournament. So if you go back to Euro 2021, watch the group stage matches at least. Kane used to collect the ball, push it out to Raheem Sterling, push it out to Marcus Rashford, and England would get up the pitch. Now this time he doesn't have either of those players, and he doesn't have uh, other players who can replicate what they did. So him coming back meant England's attack kept on getting pushed back and they were playing in a smaller area. And Ollie Watkins just kept on pushing that line up. And I think that made a big difference. That gave England a lot more space. The midfielders a lot of space to work with. And that was one of the reasons the goal came in. And then after that, I thought, you know what, actually, I think this is it, boys. We can actually do this.
You know what's funny is I thought watching the match too, and I was saying, you know what, for whatever reason, I actually told the people I was watching the match with, I said, I think it's destiny because after this,
Yeah.
I said, I think whatever football gods out there, they want England to win
Yeah.
this because
Yeah.
coming back with that Palmer goal, which was a fantastic goal, by the way, at that point in time, it's an even match. The momentum swings, and Spain looked a little shell shocked, you said, for those 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And even after that, let's talk about the end of the match now. I thought it could have gone either way at that point in time. Spain was starting to create some chances, and it was actually, ironically, an individual move by Marc Cucurella, who just decides to first time pass that ball in, which was genius. And at that point in time, very alert by Oyarzabal to put that in.
Yeah. I mean, that was an amazing cross. That's one of those crosses, like, if you're a defender, if you're a goalkeeper, you don't know what to do with. It's like perfectly placed right at his foot. And I mean, I know you said it was quite even. I actually think Spain were creating more chances at that point, and that's where my criticism of England and Southgate potentially will come in. Is where I think you have the momentum. You've really got to make use of it. It's only 15 minutes after the Cole Palmer goal that the match would finish, so you've really got to push home the advantage. Spain was shell shocked for a few minutes, and then they started taking control of the game. And then this was not the first chance that they created after the Palmer goal. This is the third or fourth. And it's a
right,
numbers
and
game.
you got to give credit.
Yeah.
You got to give credit to Jordan Pickford. I thought he had a fantastic match. Like some of those saves he made in that period of time, and even before, I was like, this is fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then those things make you think it's all destiny. But that's the great thing about football. It's like the narratives are always after the fact. If England had held on and if England had scored, then all of a sudden we'd be talking about, well, this is a Southgate project coming to a conclusion. They played this tournament perfectly. They started slow, but they picked up momentum at the right stages. And now it's a completely different narrative. So it's I think I do think England should take some blame for how they played after the Palmer goal, because they didn't push home the advantage that they had, the momentum. But I also think Spain, you've got to give them a lot of credit for it because they were shell shocked. They got their heads together. They took control. They created chances, and then they scored. So
yeah. I mean, truthfully speaking, it was this on the day today. You could tell there is a difference, Spain and England. As much as fans want to say England, fans want to say you could tell there was a different level of play going on there from the Spanish versus England, and that's kind of what I want to get to this particular question, Vic, because there's a lot of rhetoric out there, and there always is after England loses the final match in a tournament, which saying, oh, we should have played this player or this player. Why is he not bringing Palmer in earlier? Gareth Southgate is a lousy coach and all these kind of things. But just taking a step back and kind of getting away from this concept of, oh, okay, our players play in the Premier League. They're the best players. They play excellent for their clubs. What's going on? I feel like that's a little bit of an entitled way of looking at it because you see the match, right? And individually, club football is very different from international football, right? And so on the day today, you could see how Spain was playing to a system, how they played well, and their players individually played better than the English players. That being said, what I want to talk about generally is now moving forward, right? What happens to Southgate? Because, as always, as usual, he's going to take a lot of flack from this. At the same time, now he's made 2 straight finals, a semifinal of the World Cup, and a quarterfinal of the World Cup. And I don't know if there's too many coaches that can replicate that. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, look, so there's quite a few things to unpack there. So firstly, I think if you look at the context in which he took over, England's last competitive game before Southgate took over was obviously the loss to Iceland. This followed a 2014 World Cup where they lost in the first group stages. Before that was 2012 where they lost to Italy on penalties. Fair enough. 2010 where they lost in the round of 16 to Germany, got absolutely battered. 4-1. Should have been at least 2-2 when Lampard's goal went in. We won't talk about that. 2008. Didn't even make the Euros. Okay. So between 2008 and 2016, England fans have just been used to disappointment upon disappointment. And then Southgate came in and, since then, England have beaten the teams that they should beat on paper. They've had a
Yeah.
couple of really good results, like beating Netherlands and Germany, some of the big boys in football.
Yeah.
And they've lost to better teams pretty much every time. I think they should have beaten Italy. They were probably the better team on the day.
Right.
But, so I think you've got to give him credit for improving the team. He's also been very lucky with the draws.
Yeah.
I don't know if this England team would have beaten Germany or France in this Euros.
Right.
So, okay, yeah, you've gotten to the final, beating Netherlands, Switzerland, Slovenia, Slovakia. It's like, okay, great, but you should be beating those teams anyway. I think he's created a really good environment where England continuously go down one goal, come back, and the players play in a. He's completely destroyed the old club rivalries that used to exist in the England camps. These are
Yeah.
much happier camps. Overall, the players seem a lot happier and are performing at a better level and are capable of producing those moments. The question is who is English who will replace him? Because again, there's two questions here. One is, do we need an international manager? I'm open
Yeah.
to that. I don't know if
Yeah.
the FA is.
Yeah.
And if we are, then there's a lot of options. If we're not, then will Graham Potter do a better job?
Yeah.
And also, I think Southgate, I think he's achieved 90% of what what the team is capable of achieving. I think they need a little extra 10%, and that little extra 10% is intent. And is that something that can be solved with better coaches?
Yeah, I mean, you make a good point because I think it's naive, and a lot of England fans out there, and a lot of them,
Mm.
and it's
Mm.
funny for people that watch football so regularly how naive some of the rhetoric sounds because
Yeah.
you replicate another coach, right? I don't think another coach could replicate this type of success. Now, will the style of play be more alluring to the eye, right?
Mm.
Will someone like Anthony Gordon get a look in, and you start playing, sort of more free flowing, traditional, old school English style football?
Yeah.
Maybe that'll be more alluring to the eye. Will it get you better results in these tournaments? Maybe not.
Maybe not. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's beaten all the teams they should beat, which is again something England teams didn't do in the past, or at
Yeah,
least didn't do between 2008 and 2016, right? Yeah. So when I was talking about coaches, I was talking more in the English sense, coach versus manager. So maybe Southgate stays as manager. Maybe he gets more of the football guys, a bit like what Ferguson was at Man U when forget the name of the Portuguese guy, but he had a very big role to
yeah,
play in terms of how the team was set up, in terms of tactics, and maybe Southgate takes a bit of a step back and gets a coach who is more involved in the tactics and the substitutions and all of those things. Maybe that's a difference. I think I think a lot of people will still give him credit
yeah,
because ultimately, England did reach the final and lost to an amazing Spain team. So I think people are reasonable in that sense. And also, it's not like there's a whole load of options out there. At least among English managers.
yeah.
Yeah.
Let's finish with this. So overall, it's a success for you. Would you call Euro 2024 a success for England?
Yes, it's another final. England were there till the last game. England were there till the last 6-7 minutes. That's a success. I don't think a lot of the play itself was very good. I think a lot of players, especially Harry Kane, especially Phil Foden, even Declan Rice, I think we have to look at how they performed. Look, I mean, at the end of the day, everyone's failed in this tournament except Spain, right? Maybe Georgia can go
Yeah.
back with their heads held up, but yeah, in that sense, it's a failure. Yeah, it's 50-50, right? Because you come so close and then you lose. I think the major success is for the longest time. So I started supporting England in 2000. That's when I started watching international football, and I would go into tournaments thinking England were one of the big boys. England would make the quarters, the semis,
Yeah.
could actually compete. And then we had the barren years, and then I started like lowering my expectations significantly. I used to go into tournaments being like, yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, like we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. I'm not really backing England to do much. And now England fans can go into tournaments again believing. And maybe that's a success, but maybe that's worse because it's a hope that kills you. So I don't know. I think it's mixed. I think it's a success in some ways. I think there are a few failures as well.
Yeah. So that'll wrap up today's episode, where we, of course, final for those of you who didn't see it. I don't think anyone didn't see it, but for those who did, Spain beats England 2-1 to win Euro 2024. We'll have a lot of more coverage, Bick, about England moving forward now, as obviously the next major tournament. There's Nations League, frankly.
Yeah.
So there is Nations League first, so before you even get to the World Cup. So opportunities there. For those enjoying the videos, please subscribe to the channel. Yeah, they have to get there. Yeah,
Exactly.
They have to get there. We have to get there first.
I'm not taking anything for granted.
Yeah, you have to get to World Cup qualifying too, and then so we'll take it from there. But yeah, for those of you enjoying these videos, please subscribe to the channel. And it's been a fantastic tournament as a whole, a fun month. And everyone out there, keep watching the beautiful game.